Hi, Your Excellency. I'm so glad to have you here with an Irish film.
Dia go tíirne, is é go jazz tua eáil. Tá áthas mór orm, labhairt leat arís faoi scanán Gaeilge.
I think it would be a good idea to learn Irish also in Romania. We don't know, do we have something at the university in here? A lecture
Not
or
Irish
something?
language. There's
Not
Irish
yet.
studies. Not yet.
Not yet. I think it will be a good answer, yeah.
No, we have Irish studies and we have lots of Irish writers being studied in universities across Romania, including Cluj and Timișoara and Constanța
Yeah.
and Bucharest.
Good. So, we are discussing about a very sweet film, and we really thank you for inspiring us with such lovely movie. I think the description in there is perfectly. It's generally delightful film, and I think it's also something so good. It's a feeling good film, feeling good movie, especially after a morning.
Yes.
And I think that's quite impressive. And I think it's also everywhere. You are thinking from time to time, maybe this cat or this dog maybe is there something or somebody send it in our life when we are very sad. Is it happening quite often or just for this film? You ever heard around you something similar?
I think we have, in Ireland, we have ways of dealing with grief. There are traditions around death. We almost celebrate death of an individual, of a family member. We celebrate their life, but we also celebrate when they die. So we have a tradition of celebration. But grief is something that each of us as individuals has to deal with in our lives, always. So this is a sweet film because the main character, Brídne Nachton, who is actually a wonderful actress and really plays this really sensitively. She is dealing with the death of her husband who died 2 years previously, and she's still grieving. And that grief...
There's something after 2 years. It's something, you see, because it's always, it's said it's 40 days, it's 1 year, but 2 years, it's already, a very long time. Yes.
So she's dealing with a lot of grief, and her son, again, who's played really well by Cillian O'Garvey, again, is really, I think, getting tired of her grief. And there is an element where, in a human way, where people want people to move on. And yet some people then are stuck in their grief. So this is a sweet movie because something unexpected happens. And it's really unexpected that this dog comes into her life and she projects her husband's personality onto the dog.
On the Frank.
So this is something I think in our cultures, sometimes in our religion, of reincarnation, of stuff around just trying to get over grief in a way that allows us to move on with our lives.
Yeah, and I think it's also very funny from time to time. And by the way, I remember a few years ago at the Romanian Cultural Institute, I mean in the building in there and on the screen in there, we showed also a film from Ireland about death and about grief and about how there are so many similarities with what we are doing in here, with also the feast afterwards. Everybody's eating something, everybody's talking and also laughing from time to time because they feel that it's something not only crying, maybe they are crying inside and so on, but in the way of respect for the people who just left to do that. And I was quite impressed on that time too, and also the audience there in the hall was thinking of that, and they said, "Oh, you look, we are so similar to Ireland. That's why we are so many in Ireland." I was just saying on that time. You know, I think it's also important to have started in Irish today, because we know that you also have this year a big chance to get an Oscar, or anyhow to be on the short list for international language. This is international language. I get so much to have an international language and to try not to let a language die.
Yep.
Because we are talking about dying, among other things, but also languages can die if we are not using them, and it's so important not to let it go, because I think it's very very,
The film you refer to is on Colleen Kuhn, The Quiet Girl, and this film was also filmed. The area that Roshi and Frank was filmed is in the south of the country, and it's not normally considered a strong hold of the Irish language. It's a very small Gaeltacht. It's a very small place where Irish is spoken. So, and Colleen Kuhn is also set in that same place. And I think the place itself, and you can see from the film that it's a beautiful place, but very small
wonderful.
villages.
You feel like going there,
yes,
that's for sure.
It's very green, it's beside the sea.
This summer, think about it, yes, okay.
But it's very beautiful. And Colleen Kuhn is also set in the same place. But it's very much village life in Ireland. It's small town life.
Yeah.
So the films themselves are very small films in some ways. They're very...
it's so touching.
They're touching, and they're driven by the characters, and they're driven by the stories, and because the stories are very heartfelt. So it is very interesting that this year we have two Irish language films, but in fact that are doing so well in international, let's say, film festivals. But you also have other Irish films coming out this year. So there's in fact 4 Irish films out this year in the Irish language. Sorry, 4 films in the Irish language, because we also have a very good movie called The Banshee of Inisherin, a Martin McDonagh film that's out this year as well. So the film has been doing well in Ireland this year. And I think it's a real expression of where we are culturally at the moment, that our films are actually, while they're quite small, they are impactful. And I think that's...
But on the other hand, you see all this, I think it's in between a village and a town, what's happening in there, you see. But, the funny thing is that, so you have the widow, yes. You have the son, but you also have the child, which is a neighbor's boy. And it's so nice because you have in between a generation that is not functioning with the next generation, but this old generation is much better functioning with a very young generation, and through the dog. And I think that is also very, very, very impressive, and it's working. It's working, and I think it's an inspiration. Also,
I think the actor Rún de Fuiche is really, really good. But it is that thing where children can struggle. They can struggle at school. They can struggle to fit in with their peers, and there's always pressures on children.
And there is also the bullying.
And there's all of this.
The bullying, yes.
So I think because they're connected in the film, because they're both suffering in their own different ways. And it's funny that the child, his entrance into the world of the other children is through sport. And the game that he's playing is a game called hurling, which is very popular in Ireland, but Ireland is the only place that it's played.
That's again,
it's
you see, so you don't
sport.
have just a language, you also have that.
Yes. So the sport is a very traditional sport. It's a very ancient game, but it's only played in Ireland. It's one of our traditional games. But that's his entrance into the world of his peers. And it makes it, I think, even more kind of touching and more culturally similar to his surroundings. So it is an interest, but that dynamic, but intergenerational dynamic is very interesting.
Yes, because you have in between, you have a generation, it's not functioning so well with this one, because the son, he is always saying, okay, again, So,
and he has his own pressures.
But he loves her.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it's so difficult for him to, to be there, to be next to her. Of course, he has his own family. This is also
his own life to get on with.
That is also, and I think this is also a lesson for all of us, and where we have so many things to find out and to learn.
Yes, but it's a very human story, and and it's the way I think we can all relate to it. We can all relate to the issues that as you grow up, as your parents get older, as you deal with loss and people dying in your family, in your parents, your uncles, aunts, and as you grow older, they grow older. So you have to deal with loss through your life. And this is a guy who's starting his own family, and he has a baby, and he's going through his own life and managing his own life, and then he has to deal with grief on top of that, and his mother not really coping with grief. So these are the pressures that he feels. He feels his pressure in his career. He feels his pressure to just do the ordinary things in life. So it's a very human film in that way. In that there's nothing big. It's just everybody.
Because on the other hand, she's at the beginning she had just a TV. And a glass of whiskey. Her best friends would say that. And what I also enjoyed very much is the character of the policeman. Is so funny because at the beginning he's very and in the end he started to be more or less her best friend, and anyhow it is to be the one opening the way to her when it's a difficult moment, problem, and so on. You also have the neighbor. He has now a new competition. Luckily, no, he say, okay, she's a widow. Now I'm all there. I loved her for the entire life. But in the meantime, the dog is there. This is very funny also. And I
think the character of the policeman is interesting because it's almost the way we would like policemen to be in our everyday lives. People who would enforce the law and keep us safe, but also understand when we have to do things that are slightly
between,
that do no harm to anyone. So the policeman stops them for the dog sitting in the front seat of the car,
which is forbidden, by the way. If you don't know, keep in mind you can't keep your dog in there.
But he is understanding of the particular circumstances she's in, and he wants to help the community. So later on, when he helps the son to bring the dog to the hurling match, he's understanding and he helps. So he helps the community when he has to, and he pulls people up when he has to. So it's the way, I think it's almost in some ways an idealized situation, but it's the one we would like. The way we would like situations to work.
But thanks to this film, I realized all of a sudden that when I see a dog in a car on the highway and so on, it's never on the front seat. But I've never thought of that before seeing this film. So probably it's forbidden even in Romania and everywhere. You see, there are small things like that you can catch from films, and I think it's so all of a sudden I said, oh, I'm much cleverer after seeing this film, you see. So
you always learn something. If it's not about human nature, it's about the law. So there's
this time it's about law and so on. But it's I really enjoy that. Is it a often found name, Rosie?
Roshi, yes, it's.
It means something, maybe it's a rose or something.
Rosie, it's pretty much the same in the English language. So it's just Rosie and Frank, Roshi and Frank. It's just pronunciation.
It's a bit of pronunciation. We know so well that there is always a little bit of a difference. You know the famous actress with a strange name also, so we know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So no, the actress, the actors, the directors of the film, Rachel Moriarty and Peter Murphy, have done a fantastic job with this. It's really nicely paced. The directing is really good. You can see that it's a very how would you say, it's not very intrusive.
Yeah.
Everything flows in the film very nicely.
So nice, yes.
So it's
and
just
the
very well
surprise
done.
is totally, and we are not going to spoil it. We are not spoilers.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
yeah, because it's really, I was so much asking myself, how are they going to finish it? How are they going to end it? And it was so good. So don't miss the ending. And good luck for all
Thank you very
all
much.
the festivals starting next year. We know
very
already the Oscars on the 12th of March. So it's nearby St. Patrick's. So yes, of course, the witch inside me are saying things. I think it could.
Well, it's always nice to win awards.
Yeah, yes, of course.
It's actually nicer to have a film that's actually
yes.
says something and that is appreciated.
And that, yes, and that
so
help people. As I was saying, it's a feeling good film. Especially for people mourning, and especially because it's so difficult to overcome such a moment.
Well, it's hard to find the right tone.
Yes.
It's hard to find
not
a tone.
To be ridiculous. It's not ridiculous, which is not
sentimental.
It wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
Yes, you see.
And it's not sentimental. It's not ridiculous. It plays a very nice, understated way, and the ending.
It's very balanced.
Very balanced, and the ending is actually very satisfying.
Yeah.
It's actually a good ending that actually makes you feel okay and feel good at the end of it.
It's a perfect ending, let's call it. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you,
Thank
Irina.
you for your Irish cinema, because it makes us more cheerful and more happy. Happier and happier, that's for sure.
Slán leat Irina, gur míle maith agat.
Again, in Irish, I have to learn it.